Welcome back. Post-fight episode 31. This is actually post the Sunday fights in Halifax. Derek Lewis versus Travis Brown. This was a great fight night. It was better than 208 by leaps and bounds. Tons of finishes. A lot of favorites came through. And if you were tailing Lesbo and the Bean at all, you did good regardless of who you tailed because it was over 50% for both of us. I went 10 out of 11 right, only getting Johnny Hendricks wrong. And you went 8 for 11, only getting Esparza, Therido,
the lack of Therido.
Who did you beat?
Which I don't know why I traded.
Ferreira.
In reality, the way that it should have been is I should have been 9 of 11.
Breakdown. This was
Breakdown. Wait, you know what? You sent me a text and said, "Whoa, Elias looks small in weigh-ins." I didn't even watch weigh-ins. I wasn't even going to watch weigh-ins. I had him locked on my pick all week. I watched weigh-ins. And he looked so small. And I would Ferreira, I don't like Ferreira. I never have picked against Elias. I don't even know what happened, right in the last minute that I was like...
Some feeling told you the other way?
No, it wasn't even, I just pussied out on my boy because he was an underdog. I don't even know why. It's bad on me.
Well, here's your chance to...
Spartan.
Exactly.
To apologize to Spartan. He took some rough shots. He looked good in that fight. Overall, he looked better than he looked in other fights. And some people said he didn't win the fight.
I think that we should definitely get into this card and go into it because I think that there's some really interesting.
But overall,
topics.
I have to also say I did really great on DraftKings this weekend. It's been a few weeks since I've had such a great weekend, and I got 5th place on one of the tournaments that I entered. And I will say I got 5th place because I do a Lesbo card, a Lesbo and the Bean card, a Bean card, and then I do all my other cards throughout the week. But my Bean card actually got 5th place on DraftKings. So
was it a 25-cent, $1, or $3 card? Do you remember? Do you happen to remember the card it was?
I don't like to talk about money to people I don't know. No offense, everybody out there. It was a $1,000 card.
Oh, okay. I was just wondering, as big as at least the number of players there was it 1,000 or?
Yeah, there was a bunch of players.
Yeah. It was like a really big open one.
Yeah,
very
I got
cool.
5th place, so it was pretty awesome. But yeah.
Very fun.
So if you followed the Bean, I tweeted that out too.
So the Bean didn't take his own advice because I messed around with my cards the last day, ended up putting a couple fighters like Tucker, who I didn't see tons of tape on a lot of my cards, and he didn't do the best. I mean, there was a couple finishers that just pulled you out of... I didn't do well at all. I didn't make any cash. I didn't even break. I lost $5 on DK,
against myself. Well, I have to say with Lesbo and the Bean, we did have our Leslie Smith underdog pick of the week, and that was Marcos.
That was the value play all day.
Marcos came through in affording Marcos. And because of my own pick, I will say, of Johnny Hendricks, and he was so cheap, putting Marcos and Johnny Hendricks on my cards, I got to put everybody else I want. I could afford Felder, I could afford McMahon, and I could afford Santos. So I got to load up some huge fighters because of the Lesbo and the Bean value pick of underdog pick, Leslie Smith underdog pick of the week, Ronda Marcos, and then just... I don't know why. I just had faith in Big Rig this time.
It looked good. So, starting from the bottom up, quickly, the first fight of the night was Gerard Mershad versus Ryan James. James was the older fighter. Was it Mearshart? I didn't catch how they pronounced it. So, it was a first round submission. James looked like he was kind of starting to get his striking together, and did hurt Mershad, if I remember correctly, and then jumped on him, and then Mershad cleared his cobwebs in his head and threw up a armbar within
the way that I was looking at it. I really think that Mearshart might be one of those guys like the Damian Mayas, where he never was hurt. I think he went to his back, looked like he
Diaz said he did that against Conor, right?
He was he looked like quicksand.
Yeah. As soon as he got on the ground, he got control.
It was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
His movement. I feel like if he's young and decides to Damian Maya himself from the beginning of his career, save your brain.
it would benefit his career more than anything
but
to go with that game plan.
Great, and because I thought James looked good coming out too. He didn't look like a can.
James for a 35-year-old was ready to go.
35.
Right. And
I thought he was a young.
No. He's. I believe this is his second loss in the UFC. He's probably cut after this. So supposedly this was the announcers. They were saying that in the gym he's still the top dog. Whatever gym he's at, I don't think it's that big, but
Nova Scotia, is that where he's at?
Somewhere out there, but
wherever they fought, wherever
Halifax.
little, whatever. He must be around from the area. And I bet they kept him on originally because they knew they were going to this city to fight, and they knew it'd put butts in the seat.
Yeah, well, Jane's probably not going far. If he's lucky to get another fight, I doubt it, though. The way the UFC's moving, especially in those divisions, they're turning people over. 85, they could retain him, but there's other people knocking at that door. Moving on, next fight, Thiago Santos defeated Jack Marshman by a TKO round 2. This was actually a contested fight. There was a couple throughout the night that we're going to get into, but this was
an early stoppage.
An early stoppage, if there was an early. There were some late stoppages in this night, but this one, I would say he was clear the whole time. He was defending the whole time.
I mean, he had his arms out. He didn't have his face tightly covered. He had his arms out a little bit to try to block
him, parry him. That's intelligence.
Yeah, and you can't, if you're blocking it doesn't mean I'm going to succeed at blocking every time. I might take some punches while I'm trying, but you don't just stop it because I'm on my back. Was a weird.
Not to take anything away from Santos' kicks. And his kicks are some of the hardest kicks in the UFC, is why I've always been on his bandwagon. But that wasn't the best executed spinning heel. It looked like it was a little capped,
so like that's why when it hit his head a little bit, it scraped it.
So when it hit him, it didn't really make sense.
Everybody kept replaying it over and over again like it was the best.
A knockout? Yeah, kick. It didn't look like it. It looked like it stunned him more than, because it didn't look like it had full power.
That would knock anyone off their axis.
Sure. It catches you off guard.
Marshman was looking good.
Yeah,
he was getting it together. He was looking it really good. I think it's something to definitely keep in your head that he's not one to bet against just because of this. I think it was a fluke. It was an early stoppage, and it doesn't mean also that Santos doesn't have the power to have been on Marshman and caused some real damage for another 15 seconds and then just had a stoppage later. I'm not saying that it wouldn't have ended in the exact same way 15 seconds after that point, but I definitely think it was the odd call of the night. There was some sketchy calls, but and some sketchy things said on Twitter that I thought other people's opinions of things were. We'll talk about one when we get to it.
Yeah. But people were really up in.
But I put Santos. I listened to you on that. I put Santos on a few of my cards, and even though I had Marshman on my Tapology and in my picks and stuff, and I was bummed that it ended that way. I was like, whoop whoop. Don't contest too much.
Yeah, exactly. Santos. Yeah. Moving on to the next fight. We have Vienna losing to Zahabi. This is Faraz Zahabi's brother. Everyone, I didn't put that one together at all. But he looked ultra experienced in there. Vieira won the Ultimate Fighter Latin America, which was a little lacking in talent. But that dude was fighting into the third round. He was throwing some heavy shots that were, I would say... God, why do I keep messing up his name? Zahabi's worst round was the third round. When he was getting ultra loose, I feel like Vieira was starting to really land some heavy rights, and his head was just kind of bouncing off, and he was getting overly confident in the way he was taking the shots in the third round, and I just think that against an even better striker with more power, because there is many better than Vieira, Zahabi can't do that, because it's not going to work for him later on. It'll work in this maybe next fight, but after that, no way. The people, especially if he wins.
It's just, I think the MMA world that we're in nowadays, though, it's like you got to have a little flash in your pan or you're not going to get the right fights. It's like if you want the UFC, the brass behind you.
So you don't Damian Maia yourself.
Well, I think that's Damian Maia's only way. He has no flash. So you either have to have flash or win every fight. So it's like for this, especially being in the shadow of somebody, he has to come out, make a statement. He did that. He came out, made a statement. People will remember him. He looked good. He had that typical 135 footwork. Now it should just be typical of the top guys, the top 135 guy footwork.
I like that because they keep referencing obviously to Dominic Cruz and TJ Dillashaw, right? Those are
that's what we say. They keep referencing Garbrandt, which I think
where Garbrandt got it from Cruz first and then Dillashaw but to their own credits, they will say that they take from Cruz, but not really because they're creating their own. But it's like music. There's only so many chords you can do. Everyone's going to hit the same riffs eventually.
And a little different, I think, Cruz and Garbrandt stand up a little bit. One thing that I like about TJ Dillashaw's, which I didn't even put together until watching Randa Marcos, I let that hunched over style.
The takedown.
With the quick footwork. Hunched over style with the quick footwork.
What he did to Lineker. John Dodson, who's not a bad wrestler, I think also Division 1. Just Lineker has had his share of wrestlers and walked right through them. The way that TJ Dillashaw was able to in that same kind of hunched over, pivoting off of his waist. But to be able to get a takedown, that changes the game because once people start worrying about the takedowns, then that striking looks even better because people are worried about the takedowns.
Lineker should have fought Caraway. He should have warmed up.
That's a tough
on
fight.
A wrestler.
That's a tough fight.
If he was going to do it at all. But I want to see Caraway Dillashaw. I'm interested to see what happens when you go for that low takedown punch that Dillashaw does, like where he, uses his takedowns as one of his appendages. I'm interested to see how that goes against somebody that has a similar style that's getting no credit in the sport. I don't even know if Caraway's fighting ever again. What's going on?
Whatever Misha says.
How dare you?
So she's going to be managing him, right? I'm pretty sure she's going to be the new...
I don't mind seeing her in the corner.
Pallbearer of Frank Caraway. Love it. That would be so amazing.
The Bobby the Brain Heaton of...
Yes.
I would love it.
Yes.
I would love it.
That would be amazing. So... we talked a little bit on Randa Marcos' takedowns. Moving on to her fight versus Carla Esparza. She wins a split decision. This was a grueling fight. This was Lesbo and the Beans, Leslie Smith's pick of the week. DraftKings money all over. She was worth it. I mean, I believe was it 65 or 58 points?
I don't even know.
I think it was
enough that I didn't even... She wasn't my lowest on any of my cards.
By far, exactly. There was guys that were supposed to do better that did worse.
And she was so cheap.
Yeah, and
she made everybody affordable.
Value. Exactly, she was definitely the value there. I could see it being a split decision either way. I think that a split decision in that fight could have gone to either lady, and I wouldn't have been angry at it.
It was a sketchy fight. It is. I mean, the thing about every person that ever does anything on DraftKings or even is going to pick a fight, you have to take home. I mean, if you're betting on basketball, are you in the hometown? You betting on football, you're in your hometown arena. Why don't people take that into account? We take it into account when we're talking about, you from there? Oh, you're used to that altitude. So there's just
not
certain...
only that, the crowd itself, even if you land a half of a shot, the crowd goes crazy, and Carla Esparza could land the hardest shot of the fight and nobody says a word. So the refs subconsciously, regardless, are in that crowd feeling the same emotions that the people next to them are. So if the people around them are saying, "Yay, that strike landed."
Yeah.
Yay, only for our guy,
and the other thing about that fight is they showed that image again, an illegal knee. That was an illegal knee. That seemed like an illegal knee. We talked about it. That was not an illegal knee.
Right. Via the new rules, you have to have two
palms on the thing. Right. It was not an illegal knee. No one brought it up anywhere afterward, but I think all that talk, showing it on and everyone, boo! You heard the auditorium.
Because she was the hometown. They were going to do that regardless because it's a hometown.
No, but I think that them doing that and saying illegal knee.
Yeah.
Judges take points on the card even if the ref doesn't take one on especially if it's a hometown.
We're all human beings.
And a lot of...
We're all human beings.
A lot of... Canadian fighters, the Spartan, said, thank goodness that I'm fighting in Canada, because even if it's close, if I leave it to the judges...
they'll take care of me.
Yeah.
We take this into account. Hopefully, I mean, if you're listening, you're getting some good information.
So now we know. If you're a Canadian fighter in Canada and you leave it to the judges, if you think the fight's going to go to the decision... lean toward the fighter from Canada.
The hometown favorite. But
not all hometowns work that way, because you might be fighting in Vegas and you have two Americans fighting out of different places.
That's specifically different. Because if you go to Brazil, this tends to happen. This exact same situation tends to happen in Brazil all the time, where we've seen the craziest split decisions go the other way. I feel like Mark Hunt versus freaking Eric Silva, where they were both TRT'd the 5-round unbelievable fight of forever. I think Silva won that, and everyone's like, "What? How did Mark Hunt not win in these 3 of those?"
That was a crazy fight.
Yeah, that was in Brazil. That was crazy. Think of how ancient ago that feels like.
It feels like forever.
Forever.
I was a teenager when that fight was.
Exactly. So it was. I like where Marcos is going. She's someone to keep an eye on.
I'm not mad that she won, though.
Yeah.
I'm not mad that she won.
Yeah,
I feel like
we had her.
To me, I do think I need to read the rules better, but I do feel like reversals mean something now where they didn't before.
They do more.
And she had so many reversals in that fight. So many. She actually, exactly what you said going into it. You think Carla Esparza's wrestling's overrated, and you think Marcos is going to take her there. So if she can't beat her at her best attribute, she's not going to beat her.
Yep.
And so, close or not, I mean, it went the way it went, and
the way that Ronda Marcos was jumping into those crucifixes was amazing. It was beautiful. She did it 2 or 3 times on Carla, where Carla went in for a fireman's carry almost, and she just hooked the arm with her leg and sat back, and then she started landing a bunch of hammer fists. I think that was in the first round.
That crucifix, I don't know at all in UFC records, but that crucifix has to be the longest held.
No, there was.
I always see the guys get out of it. If there's she's so lucky there's not 2 minutes left in this round.
Oh yeah,
because I don't think she would have been able to get out.
If I could show you, and I'm sure you've already seen it on highlights, it's Gary Goodridge versus I can't think of the fighter, but it was back in the first UFCs, the 1 or 2, where Goodridge, exact same thing. Guy goes for a bad takedown. Goodridge grabs his arm, hooks his leg, falls back, and starts elbowing, and the dude goes limp, and he gets 5 other elbows in, and the ref comes in, and it's like, that guy's dead. Like, ugh.
Once we do YouTube live, we'll just play that.
We'll just play that video, but you've already seen it, because it's one of those things that you're just like, I hope that dude has his eyeballs. So, moving on to the next fight, Ponzinibbio versus Nordine Taleb. This went to a 3-round decision for Ponzinibbio. Taleb was the local favorite here. This was it a unanimous decision? I feel like it was maybe 29-28.
Ponzinibbio.
Taleb.
I feel like it was unanimous. It might have been 29-28, but it was like...
It was a close fight.
Do you think it was?
I thought it was. Taleb. There was an incident that happened with Taleb where he got poked in the eye legitimately, and the ref didn't see it, and they talked about it on the board, and they showed it. Other than
there
that,
was a few weird warnings for things in this fight that I never have seen before, like pre-warnings of, like, don't put your fingers in that fence.
Well, don't put your fingers in the fence. Also was
but implemented. Then it's like, well, I understand, but it's just like, okay, like, don't. I feel like it's such a chess match in there, and I'm bound to get hurt with you pulling me off. Make sure you're not going to poke them in the eye. Make sure you're not going to watch with those fingers. Watch with those fingers. Hey, another warning, watch with those fingers. And I'm like, are we about to see somebody lose a point for their fingers being extended?
Right.
Not a poke yet, even though there's some, we think, take it from an eye poke. Yeah, but we're about to see somebody, which would be
there needs to be a precedent set. It needs to start somewhere. It has to. It has to start somewhere.
Dick kicks or punts, eye pokes, late shots. If they start taking a point automatically for all of them, and don't leave it to the ref, just make it an automatic thing where it's like a red card goes up or something, a light goes on the ring. So the ref can
say it's not me.
It has nothing to do with the ref feeling like anxious or feeling that hometown stress of ruining a fight. It just happens, but it'll make fighters more calculated. And really, if they want the legitimacy, the more rules, keep your fighters healthy, keep their careers longer, make the fan investments more. It's like more. It doesn't mean there's not going to be knockouts. It just means that people have to get more precise with their inside leg kicks.
Hey, Bosrudin is a big advocate of that. He regularly talks about it. He says, how many times did you ever see me in all my fights kick somebody in the pills? He'll call them the pills. And
in the pills.
Yeah, he says that it's because these guys are throwing bad kicks. They're throwing either too many or they're throwing literally bad kicks. And that's why they hit the shot. If you know where you're going to kick and you can kick, you should hit your target every time. Just like a punch. Like there shouldn't be a wild, loose punch. Everything, you're a professional.
You're a professional. You're not a bar fighter.
Exactly.
And if you're my fighter, if I'm your coach and you're my fighter, and let's say your name, like, you're Yoel Romero, and you're gassed as hell, we're going into the third, I'm going to tell you, go out there, fake a punch, kick Bisping in the dick. He's going to need 5 minutes to recoup. You can take the 5 minutes to breathe. Game on, right back in. He's a little less than he was a minute ago, and you're a little more than you were. So a dick kick wins for the kicker 100% of the time, especially if you know you're going to get warned. And the way the precedents of the UFC, I'm allowed to poke you in the eye once, dick kick you once, and punch you after at least one round late bell before I'm going to get a point for any of those things. Not to mention a cage grab, not to mention, so you're going to miss a takedown too. So let's say I decide to be a dirty fighter. Like, just all the way around. I could probably make it through my first 2 fights fighting women in the UFC just being dirty. Anyways.
So.
UFC.
Yes, we have a lot of growing to do, and we're going to keep watching the evolution of it, and there's going to be hiccups, and hopefully they allow a lot of fans like us to keep giving them information and that they actually take it from fighters and fans, because it's really valuable information from options that you would have never thought of being a big corporate conglomerate when you're thinking about other stuff.
Hashtag superfans. Hashtag LaTB.
Follow us on Twitter at Let's Both Mean. So, back to Ponzinibbio, really crisp striking. Every time I watch him, I feel like he has a piston of a right hand. No, is he a southpaw? Piston. Either side, both hands. I think he switches it up. Taleb is known to be a much better striker, and that's how he tends to decision people.
I was impressed with Taleb in that fight. I had Ponzinibbio on it all day.
Yeah.
But Taleb looked better than I remembered.
So I'm going to touch on this a little bit later, but Nordine Taleb came out with his shorts tucked into his underwear. Did you see that on the front of his shorts? And there was another fighter later on in the card that did this. I believe it was John Tuck or somebody like that. They kept flicking up their shorts.
It was a tell.
Not only is it a tell, it's like Benson Henderson's hair in his face.
Yeah.
They have to do that because they can't get the range of motion. And I was saying this that night.
Yeah.
They can't get the range of motion in their legs because the fabric and the seams are literally stopping their movement. It literally will pull your kick down 6 inches, or it'll just completely change the dynamic of what you're throwing. So that's why they're pulling up high so they can really open up their hips.
So is Reebok's making a shitty product?
Yes, 100%.
Do you think another shitty thing is happening where these guys are getting their measurements at weigh-in?
From what I've seen on Embedded and stuff like that, there's usually a Reebok consultant around that has Reebok gear that says, I got these colors, bam, bam, bam. I have them in this, the tight spandex. I have them in the shorts, and I have them in this. What do you want? And then you'll see them come out in a couple things at times on like the Embedded.
Because Cowboy has the split trunks.
Yes, but at times I feel like Cowboy and even Jason Knight specifically have had those high up split ones, but then you'll look at them and they'll be even split it up more because I bet you they're warming up and they're like, damn it, and they'll rip them in the back. They'll just get scissors and cut them higher because I don't know why guys just don't do spandex. People will say that their legs, that some guys hate their legs, so that's why they always will do the board shorts because they want to hide their chicken leg thighs. I can see Donald Cerrone being a little chicken leg. I mean, he cracked me over the head and ruined my day with one of them, but
I would just think the reason they wouldn't want to do it is because they don't want the world to know the size of their balls, but they all get to wear big cups.
Big old cups.
Big cups.
Yeah.
So I feel like, to me, if I were a dude and I knew I had to wear the cup anyway, I would be more likely to wear spandex just because I have the cup. Like, I'd be like, yeah, look at this. This is how I roll. This is how I'm swinging.
So, yeah, I just think spandex would be that's the best. If you just do it in pretty much underwear, and that's it, and that's
and
the best
if you
way.
think about it, just even from the form of sponsorship, if I'm a sponsor, there's most likely my logo is gonna stay clear, straight, and ready to go. Whereas on the shorts, sometimes when they get all crinkled or fold up, or anyway, just thinking about it from the ladies' perspective.
Well, if there was other advertisement, ladies have a whole top half, which some guys back in the day used to say it's unfair that I can't wear a rash guard because they get twice the amount of advertisement. And it's all stuff to keep in mind as this is all evolving.
To me, what would be the benefit of a man who wears a rash guard?
Actually, Eddie Bravo and Joe Rogan.
I feel like it would be a downfall because I could get more grip on you if I was...
They were just specifically talking about the situation of a rash guard / not, and Eddie talked about how guys will, on the recent most pod companion for these last fights over the weekend, he was saying how guys will oil up the night before by sitting in an oil bath.
Oh yeah, and your skin will absorb all that shit and you'll sweat it out.
And then they'll touch you and you'll be like, oh, what? And you'll keep sweating the oil out as it's going on. And the way to prevent that, even if they do that, you put a rash guard on. It just prevents all that. And it doesn't inhibit you, because I have rash guards and all that stuff at home. It doesn't stop you at all. At all. It's something that's so tight to you.
Well, no. I know it doesn't inhibit you at all, but I'm like, for a man, it seems, if anything, if I'm going to go into the ring, I'm going to be a little harder to maneuver if you don't have this extra grip on of a rash guard on me. So yeah, I might be able to put more sponsorship on it, but it puts me a little more in harm's way. To me, I would look at it. I wouldn't know the physical benefit of me having the rash guard on. Like, I understand the advertisement spot, but I'm like, was the juice worth the squeeze on that?
Would it be worth it?
Yeah, it's like the same way there's like Anderson Silva. When I see guys with the wrapped ankles, I'm like, I don't know if that's the best idea. Yeah, it helps maybe your bones from being less brittle or whatnot, but it just seems like such a handle for a guy to grab onto.
Yeah, it just turns into a nasty heel hook and stuff. People have that train of thought. People will also say, like, it used to be those old football players that used to put casts on their forearms. What's on your ankle? All of a sudden you got 2 layers of tape on it. You got a club that you don't have to worry about getting hit.
True.
You can throw that as hard as you want
until you break the handle of that club.
It happens, but you're more likely to throw it harder.
Silva.
It happens.
With the wrap on his leg the broken leg.
You're not always the most rational person in these situations, especially after being a lifelong.
You know what I noticed for the first time today? I watched old fights between... I watched old Rory McDonald fights just because when I first got into it, he kind of got out. He was like on his way out. He had the Robbie Lawler fight, the Red King, and then I saw the Stephen Thompson fight.
You saw the transformation.
Yeah.
You saw the unveiling to the world. Yeah. His transformation in front of us all.
Not to do with those fights, which I actually was surprised that the Rory McDonald Stephen Thompson fight was kind of bland, like compared to the Woodley Stephen Thompson fight, which made me a little more excited to see it again because I was a naysayer of that fight. Anyway, one of the things I noticed today was how I can tell a guy now if I looked at the wraps on his hands. I can tell what his style of fighting might be by the wraps on his hands. Oh, wow. I just realized how they all have different
everyone
wraps.
Has their own method.
Yeah, and it was totally like, he must be a grappler. All his thumbs are open up because Stephen Thompson has his all taped all the way down, and I'm like, that's so he doesn't break his thumb and punches. He must be a stand-up punching guy, and he is. So anyway...
Yeah, there's no set mode. Everyone has their own. Stitch Duran, who used to work for the UFC, is on MMA Junkie a lot, and he'll talk about that, and he gives classes, and it's always intrigued me. Wrapping hands is fun. You do it all the time. You practice on yourself, and you get good at it, and you find your own wraps, and you find what works and what doesn't for yourself and other people. But moving back to the fights over the weekend, our next fight was Sarah McMahon defeated Mazzani. This was pretty quick. Everyone saw what exactly happened. Mazzani came in, how many pounds? 4 pounds overweight.
3.5, yeah.
3.5.
I want to say Sarah looked better than she ever looked, but
you can't take that into account.
She was fighting the can.
Exactly. And it was a woman who had come in on how many days' notice? Like 10, 11 days' notice because someone fell out. So even McMahon said it herself. She's just happy to even get the fight at all. She was willing to take this fight with whoever. Cyborg, if she stepped in, because she didn't say Cyborg, but she might have not. She might have turned that
Sarah
fight
McMahon tweets us at Leslie with a B. Please do not put my name with Chris Cyborg.
But she was just happy being a single mom to get paid, and she's just like, she could be 5 pounds overweight. I don't care.
And
I need a fight.
Both ladies got paid.
They both can fight tomorrow.
And they both can fight tomorrow.
Yep. Mazany was tough on herself, and McMahon initially was just like, didn't give her a room to breathe. She was just like, you don't let this lose. You are going to get better from this girl. You're going to be better. But I'm like, give her time, man. Tell her
come up to her after a hand's raised.
Yeah, don't do it on TV.
Yeah, don't try to pull the Misha Tate kiss on the forehead.
Yeah. No, you didn't have a battle. You swarmed her. You squashed her like you were supposed to.
The only smart thing McMahon did was say, and for my next fight, I'd like Nunes or Shevchenko, whoever wins. She didn't make the Stephen Thompson mistake of being like, oh, I don't think Tyron Woodley has a chance, so I'm just going to go ahead and call out Lawler now. And then Woodley tried to skate
Lawler.
it.
Oh, let's fight Lawler. Wait.
Where's Robbie Lawler? That's the Lesbo and the Bean t-shirt we could make. Where in the world's Robbie Lawler?
He left ATT and has another gym, but I can't say where it's at, and I don't think it's.
I wish Robbie Lawler would take the Bellator. I love him. I just think now I like him but he needs to take the Bellator trek only because why take so much more damage? Just go somewhere, be the champion.
Bellator's starting to get a nasty roster. They're starting to get good. They had some good fights. The one fight that they didn't have was Matt Meathead Mitrione versus Fedor, the Last Emperor Emelianenko. God damn it. There were some good fights. I really enjoyed
Kidney stoned.
A couple of them.
Hashtag we should smoke
Stoned. Hashtag Mitra stoned.
You go low, we get high.
So, we don't even have to go into Bellator because that didn't even happen. Moving on to the next fight. This one was also a controversial split. Lesbo and the Beans, also DraftKings pick of the week, was Elias Thurido, the Spartan, versus Cesar Mutanch Ferreira. This was a tough fight for Spartan. Spartan had to keep him away. He did. When he got taken down, I almost peed my pants. I thought it was over. I thought it was over. And he got out of two mean submissions. Yeah.
And
when he had his in the third round, when he had a fully locked in rear naked choke, and he just calmly was like, or was it second round? But either way, that's where I gotta say it. I had Theodo. I picked him on everything. Spartan, we got you, boy. You're Lesbo and the Beans, #1 pick all time, MVP. But I think in a lot of other arenas and a lot of other parts of the world that split decision would have went the other way. Because I
agree.
It was a tough fight. It wasn't because Thurido ever stopped fighting, because he didn't. But the more I think of the highlights in that fight, the highlights went to Mutanch more than they went to Thurido. And constructive criticism. This is just. It's hard for me to say, hey, you need to do this, and this, because these are world-class fighters. It's not easy to knock out a chinny guy.
Hashtag super fans.
Yes.
It takes off. We're not trying to say, if we were watching a movie and look at how people picked apart, what is that, Suicide Squad.
Right.
You have everything there to do the makings. You're a young man. You have a long career. I'm not a friggin' super coach. I'm not.
Yeah, for us, a hobby is it TriStars
I'm not
and
ATT.
Elite.
I'm just a super fan, and I just feel like, and there isn't a thing that either you or I are going to say that either their coaches haven't said. And if we say anything before their coaches, they need to just check and go to a new gym. Like, if we bring up something that they're like, what? That's such a good point. My coaches have never said that to me. Winklejohn has never told me I should work on my grappling more or whatever. So I feel like...
which I don't think he should, because he got out of
great takedown defense.
Great takedowns.
Black.
He kept shooting. Elias was shooting takedowns. When I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you shooting takedowns on someone?
I feel like, and I am not a body shamer, and I think Elias has a great body, but I think he needs to get into some power, and I'm not into powerlifting for the UFC, but if he stays at 185, he needs to work out his upper body, because he has not knockout strength in his hands.
You could really see in this fight that he is an undersized 185 and an oversized 170. Like,
he needs to go down to 170. We said it during the fight.
But when you got horse hair and horse legs like that, how you gonna cut that weight? That hair is at least 2 pounds.
I think he could cut the weight.
His legs are huge. I think he could cut the weight. It looked like he could.
But
cut the
I don't
weight,
think
honestly.
he can cut the weight like the extra. When I say cut the weight for in my head, in my naive, and I will say in my woman idea of dieting, he needs to make a lifestyle of living as a smaller person, not think of, okay, now I have 10 more pounds to take off in 2 weeks. I think he needs to actually live smaller if he goes to 170.
He's at a camp where George St. Pierre has had one of the elitist
Which I've heard George St. Pierre is going to go down to 155.
That's a
which
rumor.
We can talk about it in our
that's definitely
Twitter
a rumor. I've heard the same
talk.
thing. He's always been an undersized 170 back when the skill isn't where the skill is now. That's why he might want to go down to 155. But there is something to be said, and this is in a later fight as well with Johnny Hendricks. A full-fed fighter can eat a goddamn shot from a cyborg or from a goddamn machine and keep on ticking when he's not hurt from that drastic cut.
When you're not dehydrated.
Exactly.
And your brain has fluid.
Exactly.
And your spine has more fluid around it.
And I think Thurdo is probably more of that mindset of he's just gonna step up to the plate instead of kind of bring his body down and then be the top there. But his body looks like he probably could cut down to like 175, and then those last 5 pounds
would be killer.
Would be hard. I'd say the last 2 pounds for him are gonna be the stuff where he's really not gonna be liking life.
I just don't think at 185 he can compete with the top echelon.
I don't think he'd hurt himself though. I don't think he would hurt himself. I don't think he would ever be a cyborg. I think if he did it, I don't think he'd have as much trouble as Gastelum would have. I think Gastelum looks like 2 times the size of fighter as Thurdo does.
Do you want to see Thurdo go against Gastelum?
No.
Because unless he's fighting old men, no, you don't want to see that at all. It seems like, whoa. Or even for that exact same thing, do you want to see Elias go in there against Johnny Hendricks? Against Lombard? Think about these things.
I think Hendricks versus...
I don't think he could... I don't think he's in that ball. I just think Elias, but at 170... I can see him compete against those guys. I can see him in the 170s. I can see him in the top echelons of working his way up to fight for the belt.
Yeah.
It's
a harder road at 185 for him because the size disparity only gets worse at these
power.
Elite
It's
rankings.
harder if the more you weigh, the more power it takes to knock you out. I think Elias becomes a knockout artist at 170. I just feel like we just saw him go against a chinny guy and he landed good shots.
Oh yeah.
It just doesn't have enough. If you just don't have enough.
Elias gets away from his boxing and really where he's
lazy kicks. I
don't know if they're lazy because the whole reason of them
is
to just back them off. Exactly. And I feel like you were making that point as well. It's just to get the space out there, but with all of the kicks, he has a very kick-heavy striking style, which against we thought jiu-jitsu guy be his worst enemy, especially against a wrestler, because as soon as you're on one leg, a wrestler's coming in on that single leg. And there was some kicks that Elias ate. Oh my Jesus.
Oh, the number one thing you said that I have to say
for Elias to give him
you said the best thing. He throws all those kicks. Throw them low.
Yes.
Said it.
So every kick that he was throwing, and Elias does throw, he throws a lot up to the body and to the head. When Muntac and every other fighter's lead leg, then what they start to do is bend at the waist back because they start ducking back the kicks over their heads and they start dodging the kicks by keeping their waist back. But that leaves that lead leg. And with his legs, he kicked Ferreira back a couple times after Ferreira really laid into him. They were more reactionary kicks, where the kicks that would really hurt is if he intended to throw maybe a bullshit left and right and then throw a right kick to the leg.
Yeah.
He gets so much more power because it's not extended, because you saw his kicks reaching. He was reaching for his head, where you don't have to reach for that leg. You can put all of your fucking weight into it. You kick the right angle, his leg will break before yours.
If Elias became a fighter because he's, instead of trying to get that knockout kick, if he cut him by 1,000 cuts and picked apart that lead leg.
Taking apart the lead leg, and it's just like a jab, and he was using his jab great in there. And
he has fast enough kicks for it.
Yeah.
You're right. That is...
And it's just like a jab, the lead kick. The jab, most of the time, won't finish a fight, but we've seen many fights set up to be finished by a jab, where a guy gets jabbed all night and eventually he gives up that right straight. And that'll happen with all the kicks. He won't be able to get takedowns.
The Talib fight was one perfect example. Not Talib. What was the fight that just happened? We already talked about it tonight. Putting Ponzinibbio versus
Talib. That's right.
Talib. That in that fight,
there was some amazing.
They actually, I think Ponzinibbio's corner told him jab and crack that nose. Was it that fight?
Yes, it was.
They were like, crack that nose. They told him, just jab him and crack that nose. And you could tell that it was starting to irritate him. And so his corner kept telling him that.
Don't knock him out. Don't knock him out.
Just jab for the nose.
Just
You're
pick him
so
apart.
right on that. That's a perfect example of it.
So I really think that Thurdo will look good. Has room to grow.
But he is a Spartan. He got out of some fucking tight.
We saw that in Thiago Santos' fight. He wasn't going to give up, let alone in Canada. He's a patriot. Has a huge presence. He called out a Twitter follower. Where's that goddamn tattoo? Apparently, some dude's going to get a tattoo of the Spartan with his hair on his fucking thigh or something. Lesbo and the Bean's calling you out at the Spartan. What are we calling you out for?
I don't know.
Something. I don't want to get a tattoo of the Spartan on my face, though.
Maybe if the Spartan becomes our first interview ever, if we ever decide we want to do interviews and the Spartan becomes our first, you'll get a Spartan tattoo on you, not the Spartan tattoo on you.
I'm open to that. I can work with that.
Not the Spartan.
Yeah, because he said it has to be the Spartan's face with his hair.
Yeah.
And that's gangster. And I believe Lesbo was admiring the Spartan's hair choice style.
Yes,
for the night.
he had my girl's hair choice style, which I think is the smartest hair braid style. And it's something you always pointed out to me when I was first learning about it. We were like, see where his head is? See how it's grinding into the chest and chin there? See how it's grinding into the chest and chin there? And then if you watch the way Valentina Shevchenko fought her whole fight with those braids are hard.
Oh, yeah.
I knew black girls. It feels like rope. Yes. And so if you watch the whole way she fight, she grinded her head all. So when any of Pena's shot, she couldn't get a real comfortable angle on it. It's really the best shot a lady has at a beard. So any guy with hair should do those huge braids. The bigger the braids, the more painful it seems like. Anyway.
Hey, I think that even that hair.
It's all something.
Hashtag Lesbo and the Bean theory. Thick enough, big enough hair. Tied down enough, works as that goddamn helmet.
It's so true. Well, if you think, and also energy-wise, there was all the studies done for the military about when they would take the Native Americans and
I have heard that. I don't know if it's substantiated. I'd love to hear like a debunked show on that specific thing because I know it's made the internet runs. I've read it myself and I've seen friends even repost it to me because I do have longer hair and be like, oh, have you read this? And yeah, it's a really cool, fun thing. I just really want to see the actual documents. They got to be declassified by now. It's been enough time, right?
Yeah, I think they are. I feel like I've read a study.
The actual study?
Yeah.
Because I've only read
a study.
Articles about articles. And I'm like, well...
I didn't go to the library for it.
Or YouTube.
As Eddie Bravo would say, but...
Because if it's on YouTube, then it's legit.
Yeah, get truth.
So, definitely gonna keep moving forward. Elias is going to keep going and trucking on.
And Mutanch, he looked good.
He looked good.
We didn't talk about him at all, but he did look really good.
That guy's a fucking monster. He looks like that dude is as tall and lean as he can get. In all intents and purposes,
he probably won the fight.
Fair. Moving on to...
But that don't matter. It's like popping for PEDs after it's over. DraftKings don't pay back.
I do gotta say...
DraftKings don't pay back.
I gotta say something with that last fight. Last note on that fight. The reason that fight did go to Thurdo is because he did retweet at Lesbo and the Bean, and that probably did give him the fight.
The little bit of extra fairy dust, which if you notice, he's sprinkling the Twitter fairy dust on his elbow in his Twitter picture.
And we know that retweets matter.
And we don't do it to everyone. If you're a lucky enough fighter to get us, and we did it to 3 fighters. And
it's people we like for a reason.
And we usually talk about them on the show.
Gotta have heart.
As you men would say, we dick ride them.
Yep.
And we're huge fans for some reason of theirs. And we tweeted out at Elias Therido, the Lesbo and the Bean retweet for extra luck, and he said it couldn't hurt, and it didn't hurt.
It didn't at all.
So.
Money cashing on that. You're welcome, America and Canada.
Yeah.
Fight community in general. All right. Another local favorite who debuted against Sam Cecilia was Gavin Tucker. He came in, and for debut to be on a main card that's on Fox, to debut and be on a main card
Tucker was the one that had the fast footwork.
Yeah, he was the one that was doing the ollie shuffle.
Fight we talked about earlier. We talked about somebody with the 135 footwork and Dominic Cruz, and Tucker with that fast footwork.
Yeah, Tucker was the one that was really, the one that really had fast. You were Faraz Zahabi. But Faraz Zahabi had, at times, some really flashy... He looked good, too. He was fast. Yeah. He wasn't as fast as Tucker.
Tucker was though,
fast.
Looked good.
Fast,
He looked good. Fast. He looked so good, I kept waiting for him to fail. It almost was too good to be true.
This is exactly what we were saying the whole night was... Were we hanging out by this point? Were we watching? I think we were. We were.
Main event, yeah.
We were main eventing, and that's going to work on Sam Cecilia level. Sam Cecilia landed some heavy shots in the land. Sam Cecilia can crack. Tucker's got a chin, but a lot of that beautiful footwork and that ultra confidence that he had, bordering on being a little arrogant, isn't going to work against the other guys that have that elite footwork and angles. They're going to beat you to the punch when you're out there trying to flash. Anderson Silva does this. This is where we get all these videos of when showboating goes bad. Everybody watches Anderson Silva, and Anderson Silva got what? Anderson Silva'd. It's a freaking thing now. When you're showboating too much and too worried about doing this, that, and the other, eventually someone's going to catch you with something that you didn't see coming. And it's because you were more into the show than doing your job. It can work on Sam Cecilia level of fighter. As he moves on in his career, he's going to have some really interesting fights. He looked really good. Hopefully that showboating goes down, because he's going to take punches that he didn't, and he had in this fight punches that he didn't need to take, that Sam got him because he was sitting there, ollie shuffling, doing this and that, poking his finger this way, smiling this way, crossing the line, saying, let's do this, putting his hands down when he should have been in a stance. Like, do it once or twice is one thing, but when the level that he was, it's borderline arrogant, and I'm not to say, and it's your career, this is what makes us talk about you now, and what gets you on the pressers, is doing that kind of stuff. Good, bad, whatever. It's just like, ooh, Sam Cecilia has been in there for a long fucking time, and I feel like he doesn't deserve that to happen, but it's a fight game, and when there's a rule against it, then I can complain about it. Until there's a rule against it, it's
do we want to rule against it?
No, it's for its own thing, because guess what? When fucking Tucker gets put on his ass
for the first time,
I'm gonna be like, yeah, buddy, yeah, buddy. That's what, and then he'll learn from that.
But Sam Cecilia, he looked visually better than I've seen him in a very long time.
He looked great.
But it also, maybe Sam is a little slower. It makes the older guys start to think, when guys can play me like that, do I need to be here anymore? Do I need to be here? This isn't a young man's sport.
We'll see as well if it is one of these things where Tucker won't look as bad as, or not Tucker, Cecilia, it won't look as such a bad loss depending on how far Tucker goes. Yeah. A lot of fighters talk about this, like, really when they lose to someone, you would think that they'd be like, fuck that guy. Actually, they're like, no, I want him to be champ so I can say, I lost to the former champ. I didn't lose to a nobody. They don't want to lose to somebody and then that guy go 2 out, because they're like, I lost to somebody that's not in the UFC anymore. That sucks. So they always, or most of the time, a lot of fighters tend to be like, no. Whoever beats me, I want to go as far as they can, because it makes my legacy better that I fought the best of the best.
Yeah, I only lost to a champion.
Exactly. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes. There's a lot of fun fights for him at 145. That the footwork people are taking.
But he could be also something to just think of for the future. Sam Cecilia's chinny chin. And it might mean this kid is flashy as all get out, but with no power.
Dare I say Dominic Cruz?
But we'll see how many times he breaks his hand.
Not that it was flash for Dominic Cruz, because he was never really in that type of flashiness, but I'm talking about the general movement. And Tucker, he never dropped him. His Sam Cecilia's eye swelled up pretty good, but I don't think he was ever really hurt, and he got picked apart. Yes. I mean, he was eating.
He looked like a punching bag.
Oh yeah. He was getting picked apart soundly, and
something back real fast. Ponzinibbio cage cut.
Oh,
It was such a great display of leaving somebody nowhere to run.
Pressure. Yeah. Well, and Talib does give into pressure, and Ponzinibbio tends to pressure guys as well as if he watched any fights.
He was the second best cage cutter of the night, because the first best cage cutter of the night was Derek Lewis.
We're getting there. Getting there. Hold your horses. Hold that doo-doo. Hold that doo-doo.
We're getting there. You turtle head.
Yep. So, on to the co-main event. Hector Lombard versus Johnny Big Rig Hendricks at 185. This is the debut 185 fight for Johnny Hendricks, and that weight showed. That weight showed, as in, he didn't look like the shredded Johnny Hendricks he usually does.
I thought
but
he looked good.
He looked like a 10 times younger Johnny Hendricks.
He looked younger.
Has.
He looked happier. Yep. He looked relieved. Like, there was just a different energy around him than there's been in the last few
On the
fights.
weigh-ins, on the way outs, he ate some bombs. Because
he was never chinny until the weight cutting became a problem.
Yeah.
He was never that.
That's happened for a lot of guys.
And
Whitaker,
age matters. The older you get, the harder it is for that weight to come off.
Yes,
it matters.
Yes.
So it's
I
like
would totally
the
agree
guy.
with that.
Every fighter should just think about, like, I'm gonna have to naturally go up in my career.
So this was Johnny Hendricks,
and I couldn't decide who to go with for the Leslie Smith pick of underdog, and it was between Johnny Hendricks and Randa Marcos for my picks, I couldn't decide. And because I put them both on cards, which is so gutsy, I put them both, and I put them both on my expensive cards. I got to afford all the meat.
Nice.
So Johnny Hendricks, you my big rig.
Definitely looked like a brand new fighter, and hopefully he doesn't want to try to go back down like Kevin is saying, and saying he wants to go to 170. I don't get it either.
Just stay at 185. They both looked better. Kelvin looked fine. And look, if everybody's hitting their natural weights, and you have Lombard and Johnny Hendricks and Kevin Gastelum, all of a sudden you're not, half the division has the exact same reach as you. You're not going against guys with huge reach advantages if everybody starts natural weighting a little more.
There'll be those outliers. There's always a John Jones. There's always
a few, but you're not going to have the long. If you're Kelvin Gastelum, you're never going to have the longest reach advantage in your division, even if you go down to 135.
Kevin's got monkey arms. Like, at 185, he has reach on guys that are taller than him. If you look at his stats, he's got monkey arms.
I still think there's going to be guys that outreach him in every single weight class in the division. So I just feel like this... I feel like we're witnessing what natural weight... I feel like there has been one fight where the guy went up and got murked. But other than that, we're seeing success at these guys that are going in at their more natural weight classes. And it's making me fans again of guys that I thought were... over the sport.
Yeah.
Kelvin and Johnny.
You were thinking that, these weight... Well, you're seeing that these weight cuts potentially are really affecting... Whitaker, who just beat Brunson, he moved up from 170, and he was known as a chinny fighter at 70. But it was because he's moved up to 80 and been in a couple barn burner fights and taken every shot from way harder power punchers and taken the shots.
Johnny took some shots.
Yes. There was a couple, his head was hanging on by the last vertebrae on a couple shots, but he came back together. Lombard was, again, a tank.
He just stood and stared and
he froze. He got really flat-footed after his first round, which I said, if Johnny can get out of the first round, it's his fight to win. Exactly what happened. Lombard came out hard first round, and Johnny was able to take every punch and...
And great takedown defense. Why did Lombard keep trying to take down? He had no respect for Johnny's wrestling.
Well,
and reverse wrestling, which is what
exactly. The Lombard though is a judoka at the highest level. Was he a silver medalist in judo at the Olympics?
Idea.
Yeah, like he has takedown credentials that aren't wrestling, but he could have been an arrogant thing.
Himself.
It happened. This isn't the first time. Every time. Dan Henderson, I have Neil Magny. I mean, we know what we're getting with Hector Lombard. It's just whether they have a chin. And Big Rig used to have a chin. It got away from him. Now that he's up at a weight class again, that chin's coming back. Like, he looked
Hashtag good. 185 and feeling alive.
And for the piece de resistance main event, Derek, the Black Doo-Doo Beast. No, not the Black Beast. Lewis versus Travis Brown. Derek Lewis having one of the best, most candid interviews after a fight that went on 6 to 8 punches, way too long.
Derek number 2 is.
Derek Lewis came back from apparently almost shitting himself in the ring from body shots that Travis Brown...
Can you imagine if Travis Brown kicked him and for real, boom! He like, oh, you guys just got a little bit of my black beast. It would be...
Would it be a legal timeout, not a TKO? They have to come in and clean it up, and then the fight goes on.
At Big John McCarthy, is that a TKO?
No, well, it's like vomit, because you don't quit, you didn't stop, you're not hurt, but you can't go on if you got Nuki in the ring. You gotta clean it up.
You gotta change your shorts.
I don't know. Do you?
No, I don't know. I don't
know. Is it unsanitary? The doctor would then probably
does everybody have to talk to you like a child all of a sudden and be like, "Don't touch it! Don't touch it!"
Just give you a towel, and you have to walk out with a towel. There was one guy. There's a video.
That's
going
called
around.
A man pond. When you have a towel between your butt,
so that
it's called a man pond.
No, I think it would go around, and they'd have to escort him out of the ring, like, oh, don't touch it.
Like he's a little infant.
Yeah.
He just has to walk with
like
his
a drain,
hands up.
or like it's what is that? A shower curtain? A couple people with like a bunch of towels, just like
And he probably ran away, probably less because he was hurt, and probably because he got the sensation of like, I'm gonna poop.
I think it's comic relief.
Or both. But seriously, if you were going to poop yourself in the middle of the main event, it might make you do weird things. Like, if you felt the sensation of, like, I'm going to poop. Like, I can't even... I know people that I love that they've done weird situations because they've had to poop.
I think that it's a real possibility, and apparently on Derek Lewis's Instagram and Twitter, he talks about shitting at least one time a week, at least, if not multiple other times.
This is his thing.
This is his thing, but I think that he deferred, and he knew that he was going to get a lot of questions of, those body shots hurt you, what could you do? And what does any fighter say? I'll try to block him next time. Instead of saying the same stupid shit, he's just like, oh, you guys want a stupid answer? Like, duh, I'm going to block him. No, I almost booed myself. And then he said in the post-conference, oh, well, what'd you do to relieve that pain? Oh, well, I let out a little bit of gas. And he laughed a little bit. And he kept straight-faced, which, keep in character, fucking love it.
He's only thing I wish he wouldn't have done.
Agreed. I know.
Why did he even bring up Ronda? Why did... You know what is the crazy thing? How famous is fucking Ronda that she'll never be able to be Misha. We say Misha could be Brian's manager and his wing. That'll be fine. Everyone will love it. People will go on. It'll be professional. Uh-huh. People won't be able to handle ever in the history of Travis Brown's career, Ronda being his wing man or being his corner guy.
Prior to... Derek Lewis saying that
she fine as hell. She fine as hell. That girl out?
Is there's memes of Mr. Rousey going around, like it's not just us. The MMA community has dubbed him the spouse.
Yeah.
He's a fucking elite fighter, but he's no Ronda Rousey. So
and she fine as hell.
She fine as hell. I really didn't like though how he was saying that Travis Brown has a history of
domestic violence,
of abuse, because that was unfounded. I believe that his ex-fiance or whatever she was, his baby mama, actually went to court and on oath did not say that she beat him in an arm, recanted everything, because guess what? That is something that'll ruin your career. They'll pull him from the fight.
And I have to say this too. Men should never, ever, ever, look into that shit before you call someone out on it. Another man should never call another man out for domestic violence unless it's true. That's the same way as a lady crying rape. Men should be mad at that shit. Because I think more women should be mad at when ladies fake cry about rape. If it's real, I think every human should be fuck the rapist. We take care of it. But all the fake cries of wolves, and then these girls came out and they're like, I was lying. I feel like women should be up in arms about this. And so the same thing for that. Don't call another man out for domestic violence. Anyone that might have been a fan of Travis Brown that night that heard nothing about that.
Yeah, I know.
Knew nothing about
and
it.
And it's a hurdle that a lot of other fighters, Thiago Silva, who was kicked out of the UFC, then went through some stuff here in Miami. Supposedly, he had walked in on his wife with a jiu-jitsu instructor, got a gun, got drunk, held them all, whatever, and the cops had him down in Dale County and freaking whatever. They got him into jail the next day. All over the news. Thiago Santos was running jiu-jitsu classes that night, never done anything, gets blown up and is just like, what is anyone talking about? No, none of this. I think him and his wife were splitting up, but there was never any violence, never any police reports. It was all complete bullshit. Or he did have like a drunk strip club incident, but like his wife wasn't involved. But he was labeled as that.
And that's some bitter bitch shit. Travis Brown's ex is if you have any celebrity or anything, to call somebody, and I believe he's still the father of her children, to put that kind of label on the father of your children, it's unfounded,
right?
That is some cold ass bitch shit.
It brands you for life.
It brands you for life. There's no getting over it.
The story with Thiago Santos is that he essentially has said that he can't get sponsors anymore because people will say, oh, that criminal stuff, and he'll be like, look into it. There's no criminal stuff. That was just the media being like, oh, all this happened. There was absolutely nothing, but he since has recovered from that, but it took him a lot of getting on like Ariel Helwani and MMA Hour and being like, I'm setting the record straight, guys. Like, this isn't...
Why is Derek Lewis spreading that fake news?
So, I specifically spoke about the situation with the evil twin, and he had a very interesting theory that UFC is lacking.
For those of you who don't know, Evil Twin is Bean's twin.
Identical twin.
Identical twin.
Who is hideous.
For those of you that do know, we will try not to repeat the same stories over and over again like some people.
Definitely an identical twin. He's just the evil version of thyself. And just a bit uglier all the way around. Little heavier too. I think he wears a girdle every once in a while.
Doesn't speak as good of English.
Or Spanish. Doesn't grow a good beard or good hair. And he was saying that the heavyweight division in the UFC is lacking. We know this.
Huge.
More than any. And that potentially someone got paid off in the back to not say anything in court, to not get somebody kicked off of the roster. So they got paid in the back way more they would have gotten any suit. Nobody got charged, and everybody walks away. And a paycheck keeps coming in for the kids, because Dad still has a job. That was Evil Twin, and I didn't even think of that. And I'm like, that's some deep level thinking.
And I would say that shit totally happens in the world. I'm conspiracy minded all day.
Right.
But not for somebody with the celebrity of Travis Brown.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I thought that it was really interesting, and I didn't think that it was plausible, but I do gotta say that Evil Twin, and whenever he finds out about this, because I'm not gonna tell him until it naturally gets to him, this podcast, and then I'll be like, oh, he'll have fun listening back to all
shit, by the way, anytime that we make pics or anything when they're talking on the phone, he'll be like, I already said this on air. I already talked about it on air already. So his brother has no idea what the hell that means. So he says, I said it on air.
So I'll have regularly conversations with the Evil Twin about fights as well, because as you could easily think, like-minded people tend to like things. We both grew up wrestling and doing all that stuff, boxing each other. He likes UFC a lot, and yeah, he will somehow think that on air means that our phone conversation is valid
like
when I'm
slang.
Actually right.
It's slang
like it validates his point of view, where I technically am saying it here with you guys on the podcast.
Like he's saying, you heard.
Right.
Like, I said that, you heard.
like just between me and him. Just between him and I, where I'm talking to the world. I'm talking and actually putting that out there. So,
anyways,
back to the main event.
Brown looked good at first.
He did look good. He got back to his kicks. Were working right up the body. They were hurting Derek Lewis a lot. Leg kicks. They were hurting. His leg kicks were hurting Lewis.
That fight
heavily.
Had more of a likely of chance of being called than how quick they called that one fight we already talked about.
Oh, Thiago Santos versus... I agree.
There was a few... Derek turned and ran... He
turned... There has been other fights that I've seen where refs would come into that as he's turning, but Derek Lewis did turn around and stand back up. a testament to his toughness as well, because he could have just given up. There's fighters that will just keep going down.
He kept taking those kicks.
They looked, initially the first one, we thought his hand was broke. It hurt him so bad. We were like, he's like shaking his hand over his belly.
So bad he got gay wristed.
Ooh, and he just held it, kept shaking it. And then he kept going in for those body shots, and
he got crisscross applesauce wristed.
Travis Brown, where does he go from here? I think he has to go to a different organization. It'd be better for his career.
I think he could be the champion of another organization.
It doesn't have to be Bellator. It could be RFA, WSOF, CFL, freaking... I don't think that he has anywhere to climb right now, and he has had a tougher time than most fighters.
And he doesn't need to just keep going in against these animals and getting knocked out again and again.
And this is where I want to end the whole fight talk with this, because this is a ref that has been around longer than most and has been notoriously a bad ref. And when does somebody mess up enough that they get their job taken away from them? It wasn't Mazzagatti. It was, God dang it, I had his name. The ref. Yamasaki?
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, I don't know.
I had it earlier today and I wrote it down. I think it was Mario Yamasaki was the ref. He doesn't ref all the time, but he has had some other blunders. But he let Derek Lewis go with those body shots a few times and a couple other shots where some refs would have stopped it. He let Travis Brown in a couple other spots get to the point where it's like it could have been stopped and Travis Brown came back. But when Travis Brown ate that final right, that wobbled him and he stumbled, and then Derek Lewis came on him and hit him twice, those two shots, it was over. Travis Brown's arms were up, but he was gone. I think 6 more shots landed after that.
At least.
It
was unbelievable.
And he went completely, and he was out for over 45 seconds over on the end. Didn't need to happen at all in that fight.
Took years off his life.
Yeah.
Because the ref can't get in there in time.
Travis Brown has already been knocked out a few times in this sport that way, and he can't take these kind of things anymore. For the betterment of his life and his family's life, and for Ronda's life, they both shouldn't be fighters. If this is the Detroit, he's had his career, he's had his highlights. He has a win over Alistair Overeem, one of the greatest fighters of all time, who's still fighting. Leave it at that. Don't keep in there, and you're not going to be able to talk to your kids. You're not going to be able to wipe your own ass.
You're not going to be able to walk, yeah.
You're not going to be able to wipe your own ass. You're not going to be able to
Don't Muhammad Ali yourself.
Exactly. And in other weight classes, in other styles, via the Damian Maias, when you're not getting punched, you can have a much longer career. But in this specific division where everybody has power and you've already had your light shut off for a long time. I mean, I want to find out how long Travis Brown has been knocked out, unconscious, time, like the actual time frame he's been unconscious. Yeah, it'd be a couple minutes, which in a lifetime is unreal. Like, most people, when you're out, it's seconds. It's within 10 seconds and you're up again. 30 seconds, unless it's medical seizures and stuff like that. But if it's just flat out cold, all those 30-second fights, like after a minute or two, that's internal bleeding and hemorrhage, and it's happened enough to Travis Brown. Bad reffing. Going into Edmond. That camp, you can't leave it. It's not on Edmond anymore because he wasn't there most of this camp. So they try to take that away from him and say, oh, he was here. He was at this other camp.
Was he in the corner?
I don't think he was. No, because Edmond has assault charges and Canada won't let you in. For bullshit. Oh. You have to have a good record.
Notice who they did let in. Travis Brown. Just saying.
That's a good point. Really good point.
Just saying, Derek Lewis.
Really, really good point. With the whole Faraz Zahabi Edmond School for MMA fighters, there was people posting the combined record of their UFC fighters and former fighters, and who's competing still that's been in the UFC from Edmonds, and it is 6-25 as far as all of their fights combined. I believe it's 5 to 6 fighters, and it's the likes of Ronda Rousey, Travis Brown, Jasmine Duke, God dang it, Shayna Baszler, and a couple of those rungs of Invicta and all these ladies, and they're not winning in those organizations. They've 6 fights out of 25. That's 1 in 5 chance roughly, like 75%, or
I have an idea.
0.75%.
Ronda and Travis load up the RV, take a little drive out west.
They do the Pat Barry and Rose Namajunas, that cross country.
Pack up the RV, drive out west. I know of a ranch that'll probably take them.
BMF.
I think it would be good for both of them to be... If you insist on striking... If you guys insist on adding this into your repertoire, you need to go and hang out at different camps. Like, you need to go and... the point fighting range, I think, like, the John Wink camp, like, they're point fighters if you guys want to do that. But if you insist on doing this to yourselves, like... Yep. I just think they need the change of mindset. I think they need to watch a few sunsets and do some fly fishing. I think living in LA, they must hear, I just know what a bubble of Los Angeles is, and because of the celebrity of Ronda Rousey, she cannot get away from the bubble of her own fame. And so I feel like for him, if she can't escape it, he can't. I feel like it'd be good for them. On the ranch, they will be treated like everybody else.
Have you seen the meme going around, Never Forget, and it's a picture
of Ronda Rousey and him and a plane hitting him. Sorry, that was too soon.
And it's Dan Henderson flying through the air with his fist. No, it's somebody taking a picture of their daughter at some restaurant, and you can see they're taking a photo of Ronda and Travis, and Ronda's like looking at Travis, and Travis is looking straight at the camera like dead Hawaiian face, like, I'm gonna eat your soul. Like, he knows the douchebag.
I feel like I've seen that.
Yeah. It's That's really funny. Really funny. It's really funny. It's a meme going around. We'll definitely have to post on Twitter at Lesbo on the Beam.
Yeah, I think that was a good breakdown.
I think it's a post-fight breakdown. It encompasses kind of what we talked, or everything that went on over the weekend.
We'll do Twitter hot topics that have been going on in MMA later in the week. There isn't a fight this weekend because we're waiting for the Nurmagomedov Ferguson fight, March 7th.
We could have an hour breakdown on just that fight.
But I do think in between time, we'll probably geek out on some of the things. I'm sure those guys will be on Ariel. I'm sure there'll be other weird stuff going on in MMA. So we'll probably have at least two more shows this week.
Mayweather-McGregor is at the tip of everybody's tongue still. So, I mean, they're getting closer and closer supposedly. Or not. I feel like we were just talking some more bullshit about this. Stuff's coming up. A lot of people did get laid off. They're going to get picked up at different organizations, and they can be fighting in a couple days. I mean, MMA landscape is fruitful right now.
It's getting thick. So, we'll probably have 2 more shows this week, and you guys have a good night.